sometimes I see people or places that bring back memories for me, really, really like strong memories. And so, for example, like not long ago, I saw somebody in a crowd, and just immediately he just reminded me of a teacher. And like he didn't even look like him. I think it was just his beard.
Yeah.
That just reminded me immediately of being 7 years old and being in that class. And just that teacher, I remember he was like saying something, and it just came so vividly into my mind that it was it's quite a powerful experience.
Yeah.
And the other one that gives me this kind of shock sensation when I see something is sometimes, you turn around a corner in a street, and
in fact, another thing that's making me kind of feel not so young with memories is fashion at the moment, because it's all very 90s. So you see people in the clothes and you think, I remember when I was 16 and
they
I
call
used
it
to...
vintage.
I know. Yeah, it's a bit sad because I remember when I was younger wearing kind of 70s fashion because that was vintage, and my mum saying, you're making me feel old. And now I know how she felt, because
this is exactly actually what I was going to say. It's like, that's not the part that makes me feel old. It's the fact that I put something on, I say this, and they're like, oh, my mum just said that to me 2 years ago.
And you see it in the shop and you think, I remember wearing that the first time it was fashionable. And then you kind of have all those memories of being a teenager as well, and also thinking it looked very cool, and maybe realizing now that it didn't look that great. Definitely.
I was like back in England last week, and I seen like the really wide legged trousers, and so when I was like 14, 15, that's how I used to wear, with like a studded belt. And there was this girl I went to eat, like I got a pie, and she was like serving us, and she looked like I did when I was 14, 15.
Exactly.
And it was such a strange experience.
Yeah, I used to wear them too. And then you remember, like, when it rained, they always got wet
up
from
to your
the
knees.
Bottom. They always ripped. And yeah, you kind of remember being 16, 17, outside with your friends. So, I think music is always the thing that makes you the most nostalgic. In fact, a few weeks ago I went out to like a 90s club night, and hearing all this kind of 90s music like Britpop and Five and all the music you used to listen to.
Oh my God.
You suddenly had all these memories, and it was amazing. So I think for me it's music, especially 90s, and things like Motown reminds me of my mum, because she loved lots of Motown music and Stevie Wonder. So you always kind of remember being at home, hearing my mum sing very, very badly, but enjoying herself. So for you, is it music or something different?
I mean, music is of course a really powerful one. Like you said, a lot of it's kind of coming back. Like, you hear a lot of art, like where is it? It's like Jonas Blue. There was like a song, something stupid, and it's like sampling music that I went out to when I was like younger, and so it does make me feel really quite nostalgic, this kind of stuff. And the other one is hearing someone with a similar voice to someone I know. Maybe like a laugh that's really distinctive, but reminds me of people,
catches your attention, and you turn and look. Definitely. There's also kind of it's strange, I think most people nowadays have their phone on silent all the time, but often you'll hear like a ringtone that maybe somebody you know has, or especially when it's a ringtone that's your alarm clock.
I was going to mention this, like the negative memories.
Yes.
When somebody plays what used to be an alarm of mine, I do not like that feeling.
Yeah, your brain instantly thinks, I don't want to wake up. And then you're like, oh, I'm already awake. But yeah, that's definitely...
Especially because it's like, standard Samsung alarm, standard Apple, standard Motorola.
Yeah.
Touch isn't the one that usually brings about the most like memories. However, there is something that really takes me back. So my grandmother loved fur coats.
Okay.
Like she had so many.
Yeah.
And I loved them when I was a child because like I know it's not like the right thing, but at the time, you know, they're so soft. It just felt beautiful. And she wouldn't let us like play with them. Like
no, well, obviously. Yeah.
But we loved them, me and my sister. And so when she wasn't like at home, we used to take them out, put them on the ground and like swim on them.
Which she was very happy about, I'm sure.
Oh my, she did catch us once. It did not finish well for us at all. But when I feel like a very convincing fake fur or even like someone's fur, I get reminded of this very strongly. But it isn't the sense that takes me back the most. No,
but then strangely speaking of grandmothers, like with my grandmother, she used to love to do my nails when I was younger. And so if I'm, well, very rarely having my nails done, that kind of experience really reminds me of her and takes me back to kind of being...
That's beautiful.
11, 12, and having her do my nails all the time. Which always made my mum jealous because she cannot grow long nails. So it was like our bonding thing really, because my nan always had these beautiful painted long nails. So I think that experience definitely always takes me back.
Okay, tastes. This one is different for me because this is one I purposefully seek out.
Okay.
For memories.
Yeah.
So if I go to like a different country, the taste of something is a huge amount of my memories.
Yeah.
And I love going back to these foods. Like for this specifically.
Yeah.
So for example, like if you can get like the proper garlic from like a shawarma, it just takes you back to like Lebanon and Syria. If you can get like a proper barbecue, it just like there was like a burrito and it just took me to Florida and like California. Like I know Florida isn't like the right place for it, but it was just like a specific stand memory, I went to, and I was there.
Yeah.
Yes. So these food and I will seek these places, and then I remember, okay, this one will remind me of this, and I will keep going back there for that.
And I think because one of the greatest things about travel is trying different food. But then knowing once you've left that place, you can't have it again. So I agree. When, for example, I lived in China and I used to love having xiaolongbao, which is these soup dumplings. And I missed them so much when I left. And so the first time I found them outside of China, and they were good, it takes you back to kind of being there in that restaurant with your friends and the busyness of the city. So I agree, when you can find it again. Have you ever had a very kind of disappointing experience where you think you found?
Yes. Okay. So when I So yes, sometimes I think I find it, but then it looks like it, but it's been made in the same way that somebody who's never been there would make it. So if something looks like it's right, but it doesn't taste like that, I get unreasonably angry.
Yeah, because you get so
personal.
Excited, definitely. But do you have any foods that remind you of childhood? For example, my granddad always used to have sweets. So when we were little, we would go and say, like, "Granddad, please," he'd have them in his pocket. And he always had...
Werther's Originals.
Werther's Originals is the classic granddad sweet, I think. And my granddad always had pear drops and bonbons.
Mine was Parma Violets. And you know, this is quite funny, I actually bought some like 2 days ago. But they weren't the same. It had a different texture because like the ones in England are chalky, the Parma Violets.
Yeah.
And these ones were not. They were quite hard. But at the same time, there was still that taste.
But it's a bit more perfumey now. Okay, I'm going to admit, for me, this one is really strange because I think for most people it's like a nice perfume or something like that. Mine is actually like petrol and oil if I'm in a petrol station, because growing up my dad was a mechanic, so he would fix lorries and trucks. So he'd always come home from work kind of covered in oil and that garage smell. So every time I go in a petrol station or something like that, the smell hits me and it reminds me of my dad coming home from work. And for you?
Well, smell is the most powerful of them all, and it's the one that can take you by surprise. Yeah. So sometimes the weather, like, can you smell the weather or like a change of the seasons?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, sometimes it's really heavy in the air, or in the spring when the smell of grass.
You're like, wow, it just smells like November.
Yeah, no, exactly. And around Christmas period when there's different Christmas markets or hot chocolates. But yeah, I agree. Especially I think spring, when the grass is being cut and everything's beginning to grow again, and you have all those memories of...
For me, it's autumn.
Oh, really?
Yeah, especially like when I smell like fireworks.
Yes.
That takes me to bonfire night.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah.
And like apples, or there's a smell. I guess it's kind of decaying leaves would probably be it if I'm thinking.
Yeah, there's a certain pulpy smell. Yeah.
Yes, and sometimes when it's like crisp, it's got such a sharp, and I don't know if it hits me so strong, and it leaves me unsettled.
Yeah,
whole day.
Yeah,
I think smells like memories.
Yeah, and I think smell is the sense that hits you out of nowhere the most. You'll just be walking, and even if it's like coffee or bread or foods.